Welcome to another deep dive with us. This time, we're going to be tackling the ideas of risk and ambition, sort of what it takes to really live a fulfilling life.
Hmm.
And the source material that we're going to be diving into is this motivational YouTube video. The title of it is Ananjuda. Ananjuda. Kind of catchy.
Yeah.
It's by the channel. And it's a really cool video. It's a montage. It's a bunch of clips from different motivational speakers, all talking about basically the same themes,
Yeah.
like breaking free from fear and achieving your full potential. What I really liked about it is, we're not just getting one speaker's perspective.
Hmm.
It's this like condensed,
He has like a rapid fire.
yeah, rapid fire wisdom from all these different voices. And it really hits home how, a lot of these messages are pretty universal.
Definitely. It really underscores that, yeah, these themes come up again and again. And, I think the video wastes no time in kind of like throwing down the gauntlet. It kicks off with this pretty stark warning. If you play it safe, you're going to exist. You only get to live when you take risks. Like, wow.
Yeah, that's a pretty intense way to start, right? Like immediately you're kind of like, oh, okay, got to confront this. I've definitely been in situations where I've played it safe and then later thought like, what if?
Right.
So this idea of existing versus truly living, it really resonates.
Yeah, and I think it speaks to the potential impact psychologically of staying in your comfort zone. Like if you're constantly choosing the safe path, it's like
Yeah.
you could be setting yourself up for regret later down the line. Having that kind of nagging thought of what if I had taken that chance? Think about, have you ever had a time where you like held back from something you really wanted to go after?
Oh, tons of times.
And how did that make you feel?
Looking back on it, I think that's the feeling of what if, right? Like
Yes.
that's the feeling you're talking about.
Yeah, and the video keeps going with this idea, right? Like the speakers, they all kind of hammer home this point that avoiding risk is actually impossible.
Right.
One of them even says, if you think trying is risky, wait till they hand you the bill for not trying. It's like we're always facing some kind of risk, whether we want to or not.
Totally. Yeah. There's a cost to inaction. And I think this ties into decision-making theory, right? Like there's this thing called opportunity cost,
Okay.
which is basically what you forfeit by choosing one path over another. So it's not just about what you gain by making a decision, it's also about what you lose by not choosing the other options.
Oh, interesting.
And I think so often we have this illusion of control, right? We
Hmm.
think, okay, I'm safer if I don't take action. But in reality, life is full of risks, and sometimes the biggest risk is doing nothing and just letting opportunities pass us by.
So it's like instead of looking at it as avoiding risk, maybe it's more about managing it strategically.
Uh,
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. And the video, it goes on to talk about this idea that comfort zones can actually be more dangerous than we realize.
yeah.
Like one speaker gives this really vivid analogy. You put pressure on a rock, it turns into a diamond. It's like that pressure, that discomfort
Yeah.
is what actually leads to growth and transformation.
So it's like the old saying, no pain, no gain. We need some level of discomfort to push ourselves to actually evolve.
Exactly. It's all about embracing those challenges,
Mm.
even when they feel uncomfortable. I think, think about a time when you actually pushed past what you thought were your limitations.
Hmm.
Like, didn't you emerge from that feeling more capable and confident?
Oh,
Like
yeah,
more
yeah,
self-assured?
absolutely. I remember I was terrified to give this big presentation at work.
Oh, yeah.
But once I did it, I was like, I can do anything. Like, you prove to yourself that you're capable of more than you thought.
Exactly. It's like that moment where you realize, wow, I did that. It's a perfect example of how pushing past that discomfort can lead to really positive transformation. And then the video gets into this really fascinating concept of turning pain into motivation.
Yeah, a few of the speakers were talking about that, right? Like using past failures or heartbreaks or even the fear of future regret to actually propel them forward.
Yeah.
There's this one line that was like, pain motivates significantly faster and stronger than pleasure does.
Mhm.
It's kind of a dark statement,
It is a little bit, yeah.
but I feel like there's some truth to that.
Absolutely. And I think there are a lot of psychological principles at play here. Things like negative reinforcement and loss aversion. We're literally wired to try to avoid pain and loss.
Hmm.
So naturally, the potential for those things, that can be a very powerful motivator.
Uh,
But I think the key here is to really harness that natural tendency and use it in a positive way.
right. So it's not about dwelling on the negative, but actually channeling it into action.
Exactly. Instead of letting fear paralyze you, use it as a springboard to propel yourself towards something better. And the video actually goes on to talk about this idea of developing what one speaker calls a discipline muscle.
Okay.
He's talking about keeping promises to yourself even when no one's watching. It's all about self-accountability.
It's like choosing to go for a run in the morning even when you'd rather sleep in. It's
Yeah,
like that you're holding yourself to that commitment.
exactly. It's about showing up for yourself consistently even when it's challenging. It's like, through those small, consistent actions, that's how you build trust in yourself, and that's ultimately how you achieve those really big results over time.
So it's like building that inner strength, like that self-reliance.
Exactly. So we've talked about risk-taking, turning pain into motivation, building that discipline.
Mhm.
What other insights does this video give us?
I'm ready for more.
I'm ready to share them. Well, one of the speakers emphasizes the importance of mindset. He's got this great line, get the mind right, the body will follow. It's all about the power of self-belief and how our thoughts influence our actions.
So if we believe we can do something, we're more likely to put in the effort to actually make it happen. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
It is. I think, if you are constantly doubting yourself, you're probably going to sabotage your own efforts. So this ties into like the concept of a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset.
Right.
So people with a growth mindset believe that their abilities can be developed through dedication and effort, whereas those with a fixed mindset kind of see their abilities as static.
So I guess having that growth mindset means being open to learning, being willing to adapt, and really kind of pushing past what you perceive as your limitations. It sounds like that's kind of crucial for success in any area of life.
It's huge. I mean, this video is just jam-packed with insights. We've only scratched the surface.
My mind is blown already. I'm feeling so inspired to take more risks, to really chase those what ifs and see where they lead.
It's exciting, right? It's about embracing those possibilities.
Mm.
There are some really thought-provoking ideas coming up, especially about how the way we view risk can actually be a huge advantage. But we'll have to save those for next time.
All right, I can't wait to dive back in.
Me too. We'll see you then. Welcome back. So picking up where we left off, we were talking about risk, and this video actually highlights this really interesting story. One of the speakers talks about his dad, who was an accountant, but he always dreamed of being a comedian.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but, he chose that stable career path. But then he ended up getting laid off,
Oh, no.
which I think is a great example of how even seemingly safe choices can still carry a lot of risk.
Right, yeah. It challenges that assumption that playing it safe actually equals security.
Totally. And the speaker's kind of takeaway from that experience was, you can fail at what you don't want, so you might as well take a chance on doing what you love. And it really makes you think, about all those unfulfilled dreams and the potential for regret if we're constantly prioritizing security over passion.
That's such a good point. Like, we might end up regretting the paths not taken more than, the mistakes we make along the way.
Yeah, and I think the video really encourages us to kind of like embrace that discomfort
Hmm.
and step outside of those limitations that we often put on ourselves. There's this one line that was like, we're training kids and people to be soft in a world that continuously gets harder.
Wow, that's intense.
It's intense, right?
Yeah.
But it's like a call to action to actually build resilience.
Yeah, I think it's important to equip ourselves to deal with those challenges rather than constantly trying to avoid them.
Yeah, and I think there's a balance to be struck, right? Like, we need to be compassionate with ourselves and others, but also cultivate that inner strength to overcome obstacles.
Right, like finding that balance.
Exactly. And the video goes on to apply this idea of risk-taking to a more like societal level. One speaker talks about the need for re-embracing risk when it comes to like exchanging ideas, being open to new perspectives,
All right.
even the ones that challenge our existing beliefs.
So it's not just about individual growth, it's also about societal progress.
Exactly. It's like by being open to different viewpoints, we create space for new ideas,
Yeah.
for innovation to really flourish.
That's so important, especially when it feels like everything's becoming more polarized, right? If everyone just clings to their beliefs and isn't open to new information, then how can we ever actually move forward?
That's the challenge, isn't it? And I think
Yeah.
growth and progress, whether it's
Mhm.
personal or societal, it often requires us to step outside of what's comfortable and actually engage with those ideas that might feel a little bit challenging at first.
Yeah, and that discomfort, that's a sign of growth, right? So we've talked about facing those fears, embracing that discomfort, the power of mindset, and even the societal implications of risk-taking. But how do we actually apply all of this? Where do we even begin?
That's the million-dollar question, right? And I think the video gives us a really great starting point.
Mm-hmm.
Don't ask yourself what the world needs. Ask yourself what makes you come alive, and then go do that. Like, what are you actually passionate about?
It's like aligning your actions with those things that bring you joy, those things that make you feel truly alive.
Exactly. What are those things you've always wanted to do, but you've been putting off because of fear or self-doubt? Take some time to really reflect on that, jot down some notes,
I
brainstorm.
like that, like a mind map or something.
Yeah. And then once you have a clearer picture of what those aspirations are, it's time to take action. And remember, it doesn't have to be this massive leap.
Right, break it down.
Exactly. Break those larger goals into smaller, more manageable steps. Like,
Oh,
if you dream of writing a novel, start with committing to write for like, I don't know, 30 minutes each day.
just get started, right?
And remember, it's not about being perfect. It's about progress.
Yeah.
Embrace those messy first drafts. It's through those experiences that you actually learn and refine your skills.
So consistency and momentum over perfection.
Exactly. But you brought up fear, and I think that's a big one for a lot of people.
Definitely.
And it's totally natural to feel scared,
Yeah.
right? But remember that analogy about building a discipline muscle.
Yeah.
Facing your fears, it's like exercising that muscle.
Yeah.
The more you do it, the easier it becomes.
Right. Each time you push past that discomfort, you're building that resilience.
Exactly. And I think another really helpful technique is, we talked about flipping the script. Instead of dwelling on what you might lose, try focusing on the potential gains.
Mm.
Like what exciting possibilities might open up when you actually take that leap of faith.
Yeah, it's a total mindset shift, right?
It is. And, you don't have to go through this alone, right? Finding mentors, joining communities, connecting with people who inspire you. Surround yourself with those people who encourage your growth and who can offer guidance.
It's like having a support system for your dreams.
Exactly. And don't forget authenticity. Be true to yourself. Don't try to fit into someone else's mold.
Right. Be your best self.
Exactly. So we've talked about a lot. Finding your passion, taking action, embracing failure, challenging fear, building a support system, and staying true to yourself.
Yeah, it feels like a really solid foundation for creating a life that you're excited to live.
Yeah, and I think this video really emphasizes that. It's about creating that life filled with purpose and fulfillment.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But there's one more thing the video touches on, which is the concept of failure, like how our perception of it can really impact our ability to succeed. And it seemed like they were saying almost embrace failure.
Yeah, and I think that's a really key takeaway.
Like, is that what they were getting at?
Yeah, this idea that failure isn't actually the opposite of success. It's part of the journey.
Okay.
They gave this really great example. They talked about J.K. Rowling, the author of Harry Potter. Her first book was rejected 12 times before it was published.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Imagine if she had given up after, like, one rejection or even 11. Like, what a loss that would have been for the world.
And there's so many examples like that, right? Like, didn't Michael Jordan get cut from his high school basketball team?
That's right. And I think these stories, they remind us that, failure is not a final destination. It's like a redirection, a chance to learn, to adapt, to refine your approach.
It's like that saying, fall 7 times, stand up 8.
That's exactly it. And I think this whole video is just full of those little nuggets of wisdom, right?
Totally. It's been amazing. We talked about taking charge of our lives, embracing failure as a learning opportunity, aligning our actions with those things we're passionate about. What other motivational gems are hidden in this video? I'm hooked.
Well, they dive into this really interesting idea about authenticity.